And here we are. A new week has begun, Mr. Rayo. Welcome to the Joe Rayo and Joe Chaffee Weather Show, 7 o'clock Eastern Time on the 10th of August. And Mr. Rayo, you have the Perseid meteor showers, which, if you missed it, folks, I posted it and I also shared it to the YouTube audience among all the other platforms. Joe did do a primer or a primer today. Which word is it? Is it primer or primer?
I think it's primer.
Primer?
I think it's primer.
Well,
I only say that because if you saw the TV movie, if you saw the movie Contact with Jodie Foster, they talk about how the aliens left a book on how to build this sophisticated machine, and they kept referring to it as the primer. So
okay.
I guess that's the proper
Either
usage.
way, it's the setup. And you got into it today, so maybe if you want to take a little time to go ahead and talk about it just a bit.
Yeah, well, we could talk about that later. I'm just thinking right now that we're in the throes of another siege of heat and humidity, which Joe, from all the maps I looked at today, it doesn't seem like this is going to be breaking anytime soon. Somebody on Facebook asked me, he said, when are we going to get a nice shot of cool, dry air? And I said, well, it ain't coming. It ain't coming in the immediate future, and it doesn't look like it's coming in the far and distant future. We could be in this type of pattern of either heat and or humidity. I think right on through the end of this month and maybe into the start of September.
Well, there'll be a few interruptions along the way, but they might be the onshore-ish type interruptions that we don't particularly care for, other than the fact that it keeps it cloudy and keeps the temperatures in check, and you get some rain out of it. And just realized I didn't have my headsets on, so hang on one second. I moved my computer upstairs for a little while today so I could do some work. And nope, these are my bad headsets. Talk to me.
Do you want to get your good
Nope.
headsets?
So why don't you go ahead and talk for a little bit? I have to run back up and get my headsets. Okay.
Okay.
All right. I'll be right back.
All right. So here we are, folks, talking about the weather overall. And as I said, it looks like we're going to be remaining in a rather humid and sticky weather pattern through much of this week, if not right on through the week. In terms of heat, we'll probably be seeing that again tomorrow, and in temperatures, index values probably at or above 100. We may see a bit of a tempering of that heat on Wednesday, thanks to showers and scattered thunderstorms, and especially true for Thursday and Friday. We have this cold front, which really is moving at a snail's pace in our direction. It looks like it'll get
And I
here.
shall put that cold front on the screen for you.
Okay. It looks like that cold front is going to be arriving here sometime on Wednesday, but it ain't going to be moving all that quickly. So it's still going to be adversely, and when I say adversely, I mean in terms of producing showers and scattered storms affecting our area Wednesday, Thursday, and perhaps even Friday as well. And as you said, Joe, the only break in the heat will come when we can turn the winds out of an easterly or southeasterly direction off of the ocean, and then the temperatures drop cooler, if you can call it cooler, middle 80-degree range, but still with the humidity factored in, it's going to feel every bit like it's going to be in the high 80s and 90s. Very, very oppressive weather pattern, and again, no real signs of any real break. I mean, if you're waiting for Canada to open the door and let in some nice, fresh, clean air into our area, cooler, drier air, I see absolutely nothing in the immediate future, even the distant future, in that happening here. So we're just going to have to grin and bear it.
And that cold front, by the way, did a number today in the Midwest, and you can see the front on the 21Z surface map there, running through northern Michigan, southern Wisconsin, and cutting across eastern Iowa. A derecho it has been moving along and moved across the state of Iowa, and we're going to take a look at that on the radar tonight, and we'll also bring up Tornado HQ and the lightning map in a moment. But you can see it here, just as it crossed Chicago. a little while ago. That line has been there all day when it was back in Iowa earlier this afternoon, and there was all sorts of tornado warnings and damage. I think I saw that there were at least 80,000 people without power in Chicago this evening, and now it's moving east across Lake Michigan and getting ready to move into western Michigan. Let's bring up a radar here. I think this probably the one in northern Indiana might be. Uh, in fact, they call it the Northern Indiana radar. Just hang on, we'll get this flash thing turned on, and you'll see the current radar. And there it is. I mean, that thing is flying east. Now, it looks like it's weakened a bit, and it is forecast to weaken going forward. But you see a couple of tornado warnings there that popped up. It's all pretty much out. Should be pretty much out of Chicago. Let's go back. I'll go back west one radar station to Chicago, Illinois. Look at that little hook there. You see it, Joe? That's a nice little shortwave that's moving along there. That's producing all this, and it's not going to ride its way completely to the east. It is going to move up into eastern Michigan and gradually fall apart later this evening.
Right. But again, you see something like this and you say, okay, here's a nice strong cold front. It's heading in our direction. We'll probably get into it tomorrow, perhaps, and then the heat and humidity will be pushed on out. But that's not the way it's going to happen. In essence, if you take a look at the upper air pattern, all of the nice, dry, cool air is going to shear off well to our north again. The front runs out of gas as it approaches our area, and we remain basically in the same type of tepid, if I may use that term, oppressive, humid, tropical weather pattern that we have been in for so many days, we've seen for so many days this summer.
Boy, they got a problem here on the tornado HQ map because you can see the warnings from earlier, but the radar echoes aren't on here. Oh, that's interesting. So
Well,
something's happened. Look at all of these, Joe. This is from starting from the ones for today. In let's see. I just wanted to go back and make sure that the ones I could see from today. So this was at 1:15 p.m. in Grant, Wisconsin, Green Rock, Wisconsin. Then we go up to Boone and Winnebago, Illinois. Another tornado warning for Boone. Then another one after that for DeKalb, Kane, Kendall, and LaSalle counties, DuPage and Will counties, Racine and Walworth, Cook and DuPage, and that's Chicago. This was back at 3:42 p.m. They had a tornado warning up. Lake and McHenry counties in Illinois. Some other tornado warnings that were up in parts of Wisconsin. They've all expired. Uh, these tornado warnings. The last one was from 27 minutes ago, so they were all said and done. But a few other severe thunderstorm warnings popping up now on the Indiana side. So this was this was definitely very impressive. I really didn't pay too much attention to it this morning when it was moving along through Iowa. Then got Robert Brown message me and called my attention to it, and it's really held together. But yeah, the cold front that's doing all this is not going to be. It's going to do what a lot of cold fronts have done this summer, and particularly in the last few weeks, where when they get to the coast, they kind of just slow down and stall out, and then we wait for them to fall apart. And you see these are the lightning strikes going on at the moment. Quite a few of them, in fact, still, even though that derecho seems to have passed its peak. I just noticed we've got a little bit of lightning activity going on with some scattered cells well north of you, up the Hudson Valley, northwest Connecticut, and scattered out around through parts of New England. And we're seeing some lightning strikes down through the southeast and over southern Georgia, northern Florida. A fair amount of lightning strikes up and down the coast, as you see. So it's a little bit on the busy side. Let's go back to the radar, and I'll bring up the national radar again. And there we go. Just give it a quick refresh.
And for those of you who think that, this heat wave or this wave of heat and humidity is something really special or unique or spectacular, it doesn't even hold a candle on this day in 1944, Joe. And this is from Rob Friedelwitz's website, which comes up with all sorts of interesting little tidbits. This one, with a high of 97 degrees today in 1944 at Central Park, this was the first day of an 8-day super heat wave with high temperatures each day for 8 straight days, 95 or better.
Mm-hmm.
High temperatures during this streak were 97, 102, 97, 96, 95, 95, 96, 95, and that was the longest such heat wave on record. We've never seen anything like that since,
Right.
thank God. But if you think it's been hot, recently, it doesn't even come close to what those folks in 1944 were going through. And I wonder how many people in 1944 had access to air conditioning. That was back in the time when
Not many.
that was back in the time when movie theaters used to have these big signs outside of the main entrance saying, "Come on in, it's cool inside,"
Yes,
and people
exactly.
would watch a double or triple feature just to stay cool for a number of hours, as opposed to being subjected to extreme heat like that.
Well, yeah, it was a different world, and we, certainly we've had some hot days, but it's been a while since we've had a, a stretch of 90 plus going 7, 8, 9 days in a row. That's been a long while, at least for up here where
Right.
we are.
It's
There's
been unending humidity. We haven't
Yeah,
really, I mean, we haven't, it's not been overly spectacular in terms of heat. But Joe, I got to tell you, going back to maybe the beginning of July, I think that's when the air conditioner here has been like almost nonstop, except for when we didn't have power last week. But I think it's been more a problem in terms of humidity as
hmm
opposed to heat this
yeah.
particular summer.
The storms that are in the southeast, looks like a line had formed, and also looks like they may have just passed their peak now as they move southeast across central Georgia and into South Carolina, and even kind of wiggling their way into eastern North Carolina, and also some storms there in eastern Tennessee. Out to the west, we've got some action behind where the derecho is. You can see the southern tail of that line in in central Illinois and western Indiana, and of course it breaks up. But you've got some clusters of showers and storms across southern Kansas, northern Texas, a few scattered showers in parts of eastern Colorado and eastern New Mexico, and just some scattered activity going on in parts of Nevada and northern California. So uh, our next we could I know a lot of areas in eastern Pennsylvania, westernmost New Jersey, down into Maryland, northeastern Virginia. They've had a ton of rain because of the two tropical storms that we had Faye and Isaias last week. But if you were east of those tracks across eastern New Jersey, New England, southern New England, Long Island, New York City, you kind of got on the edge of that rain. You really didn't get into that because of the fact that when these tropical systems move north, the rain shield shifts to the west side. This is going to be a non-tropical situation later this week, depending on how it plays. And the Weather Prediction Center folks have uh, what looks up about 1.75 to 2 inches touching New York City, western New Jersey, and 1 inch to 2 inches just to the east, and some heavier rains in Virginia, Maryland, the Delmarva Peninsula, down into parts of North and South Carolina. If we can, the benefit to getting these stalled fronts is, yeah, the rain actually for some areas would be a good thing. For others, not so much. So for those folks in southern Pennsylvania, southeastern Pennsylvania, western New Jersey, I don't think you're going to want to. You really don't want to see any more rain out of this because the ground is still pretty saturated. But the benefit would be, as we said, that it would keep the temperatures down and keep things on the cloudier side. The west is pretty quiet. You can see there's nothing really too unusual with what's going on in the eastern part of the U.S. because this isn't particularly tropical. It's not really tropically driven.
Yeah, and I'm
It
just
is what I
checking.
mean by that, tropical storm driven.
Well, when we get to it, I'm sure in a very short time we'll be investigating already. The National Hurricane Center is already talking about a 60% probability of our next tropical menace. That would be Josephine, which would be forming somewhere out in the North Atlantic Ocean.
Correct.
Um,
In fact, we'll do that after we'll go through the GFS. I just want to bring up too. Let's just bring up the Storm Prediction Center. They actually had a moderate risk of severe weather with that derecho zone, and you see the working severe thunderstorm watches that are still up in Michigan and Indiana down into southern Illinois. For tomorrow, we're looking at small areas of marginal risk, North Texas northward into South Dakota and western Nebraska, and also an east-west band from eastern Oklahoma and Arkansas into southern Tennessee and northern Mississippi. And on day 3, which is Wednesday into Thursday, small area of marginal risk up through the Dakotas and into Nebraska. So this was the big day of severe weather maybe for this week, and things will calm down somewhat after today. So I've got the GFS up here on the screen, the new GFS, and uh, the uh, the pattern, Joe, has been pretty persistent through much of the summer with this very narrow, or let's call it flattish east-west high that has upper high from the Atlantic across the southern part of the United States. So let me just run it back. We'll bring it back to today, and there you can see from this morning. You've got that pretty much almost ruler-like flow from the northern Pacific across southern Canada. You get these upper lows and short waves associated with it that try to force that down into the ridge position, which is, I always been describing this as kind of a flattish ridge because it's flat. It's laying down across the southern half of the U.S. and the Atlantic, and is strong in an east-west mode and not in a north-south mode, and that is also the case in the Pacific. So really, until you can get that northern jet, when that northern jet buckles, that's when we have some issues. And also, as you said, Joe, not having it come down and make a full latitude trough like we saw with Isaias last week, although it'd be better if we just had the trough on the East Coast so we would get nice and cool and dry. That flattish ridge holds through the weekend and into next week. There's a little upper low that drops down in eastern Canada, but that's going to be that stalling front that we're going to get along the East Coast late this week. And there's a little kink there. It's hard to see uh, with the
they're very
summertime
subtle,
pattern right in here.
very
Little
yeah,
kink,
very subtle. These little kinks or these um, little well, yeah,
ripples,
kink ripples. Yeah.
little ripples, and going into next week. Now there is a deeper trough here. Look at that. That's interesting. That's a little bit of a little bit more of an amplified look than what. Now this is where, interestingly enough, the two tropical systems that we had both had alleyways set up to move up the East Coast. And this upper trough, now here's the thing, we're probably not going to have a tropical system to worry about uh, when we come to the, if this verifies, and this would be a week from now and going into next Tuesday and Wednesday. Now this might be something that would bring some relief, except here we were in the south-southwest flow up the East Coast. So this is where you don't want a tropical system to be hanging around in the Bahamas or across the Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico and traveling around the upper high that's sitting out here in the ocean, because you know what? It would just shoot up the East Coast. Uh, the rhyming of this pattern that we've had this summer is just going to continue. And that's actually a fairly amplified look here. That was pretty interesting to see that. Now, if this is true, Joe, we get around the 20, later next week, if that swings into the northeast, that might bring us a bit of a break if it turns out to be correct.
Yeah, but Joe, we're talking now about something beyond 5 or 6 days, and as we have seen in recent days and weeks, whatever the models promise us, beyond 5 or 6 days doesn't usually all pan out. Something
Yeah,
always
the European
comes
is
along.
not nearly as amplified with it. The European tries to do it, and then the northern part moves into southeastern Canada. The southern part drops down into the Gulf states, and you got another one of these ripples here. But maybe with a little luck, we could press out a day or two. We'll see. It's long enough in the long range that we don't have to go too crazy over it. And we're just going to bring up the surface map here for the GFS on the latest run. We'll take a look at what it's doing. Oh, Mondays, Mondays, Mondays.
Yeah, like I said, well, before we came on the air, folks. I just said it's like a never-ending pattern. It may be a Monday. Every day has been a Monday. Every day has been a Friday. Every day has been the same.
Right.
Really. Uh,
So
not
yeah,
only the
here your front's going to approach on Wednesday and just kind of lay there along the coastline, and then you
right,
get that ripple to come through. So Thursday into Friday, the models are actually generating a fair amount of rain out of this. If this is correct, you got this high that's building in southeastern Canada to give us a little bit of an onshore flow. So maybe by the time maybe Thursday and Friday, we'll get one of those days. As I said, we'll get clouds and temperatures in the 70s. You see, it's like an east-west band. Then the high actually suppresses it further south, and then you still have some more rain around going into the weekend. So there's some question marks certainly for the end of this week and into the weekend. And with that deep trough that we just saw the GFS put out, and well, as you said, it's in the long range, so we don't know. But with that south-southwest flow, if it's correct, it's going to mean another stalling front and maybe more rain uh, for the early part of next week, with a low running up the just inland of the coast, a non-tropical low running up the coast. I'll be
right.
curious. I want to see what kind of thicknesses it has behind it. Now this is if that trough is correct, Joe. It's got a five. What is that? I can't see. 76, 70, 64, 64 thickness in eastern Pennsylvania. That's promising. 58 thickness in central and western Pennsylvania, and 52 thickness in the lower lakes. Oh, look at that, Joe. It gets that the 564 thickness gets here almost the 564. That
At the
would that would at least try to bring some dry air in here. We've been down this road before, but it will at least try if that trough were to verify. But you're
well,
not. You're skeptical.
I'm Mr. Negativity.
Yeah,
that's
you do. You do
that's me.
seem to. You do seem to be that way today.
Um,
There's your. By the way, look at all those dew points. The dew point relief that the model brings up to the Great Lakes and Western PA, Western New York, with dew points in the low 50s and even low 40s for dew points. We should only wish that it could get in here like that. And it actually does bring in some of those lower dew points. But this has happened a few times this summer where the GFS has tried to show something like this, and it hasn't panned out.
it's kind of like crying wolf. What else can I tell you? It gets to the point where you just keep saying to yourself, really, really, you promised us this, you know, when back a few days ago or a week or two ago, and let's just play it by ear and see
Yes,
what
let's
happens over
do
there.
that. Okay, so you mentioned about the tropics, and I've got the tropical satellite up there, and you can see the tropical Atlantic is Africa is pushing out waves off the coast south of the Cabo Verde Islands, and they are moving along. And there's one wave that is south and west of the Cabo Verde Islands. There's some showers and thunderstorms. There is a low there. It's described by the Hurricane Center as an elongated low north south, so it's not really all that organized. But we do see some turning. The problem here is that from the standpoint of development, and we'll bring the GFS back. I'm going to set it up for the Atlantic, and I'm going to bring up that 700 to 400 millibar map that shows relative humidity. And the problem is that in the tropical Atlantic, we still have an issue with a lot of dry air, and it's all indicated in the dark brown. Now, in the darker blue, or aquamarine, dark aquamarine color. Is that what we could call that?
I
Uh,
guess you can. Yeah.
Representing the intertropical convergence zone. I'm just going to roll it back to the current time. That's actually 10 days from now. We'll let it load. But look at all that dry air that's north of the intertropical convergence zone, and
Yeah.
that's a big problem. This low actually does try to close off, but it just seems as if there's just too much dry air around, and there's still some hint of it north and east of the leewards by the time we get to Saturday. But it doesn't really do anything with it. Now let's hope that that's the case, and we don't wind up with a situation like we just had with the with the with our
Eta.
tropical storm, yes, where it seemed to develop in spite of the fact that conditions in the upper air were not all that favorable. This is a year where everything wants to spin up, so you have to be a little cautious. The GFS actually, that little blue patch that's north of Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands, approaching on Sunday, is still reflecting what's left of that tropical wave. And of course, as I said, you don't want it you don't really want a tropical system to come out of this, because if the model's correct with showing some kind of troughing in the east, it does make it problematic. And in fact, if you look at that, if you follow that blue patch along that would represent the tropical wave, you see how it starts to turn northward and northeastward. It's offshore, but again, if there's a trough back there out to the west, and we don't exactly know how that trough is going to behave, you don't want a tropical system to come
No.
out of this.
No.
No, we
Especially
don't.
since especially since a few people like Dennis Cassia, for example, one of our faithful viewers, just has recently gotten his power back.
Oh
Uh,
my.
you know, and there are a lot of people in my area still that, well, not maybe not a lot, but maybe a couple of hundred that are still waiting for their power to come back.
Hmm.
I, I mean, the last thing you want is to have your power finally coming back, and then a few days later, another system comes along to knock it all out again.
Yeah,
It,
no, you don't want
it,
that.
no.
And by the way, once we get to, I tend to think that unless there's a surprise from now for the next 10 days, we're not going to see really very much. But I think after the 20th or 21st, that dry air disappears, and you start to get some action. Again, those waves keep coming off the African coast. So I think toward this last 10 days of the month, that we might wind up popping up a tropical storm or two, maybe one in the tropical Atlantic and maybe another one somewhere else. But we're gonna have to just gonna have to wait and see what happens, and wait till we get to the last 10 days of the month before before we start having to deal with tropical systems again.
Well, the I'm just looking here at the European ensemble, and by about 228 or 240, that's 10 days from now.
Right.
If you want to believe that, they have a nice dome of high pressure from Canada sitting over the northeastern United States with the heat very nicely suppressed down past the Carolinas. So I'd love to believe that that's going to be the case. I'd love to put my hope that that is going to actually transpire. But again, that's 10 days from now.
Right.
And the models have had a tendency to, once you get past 5 days, to change their minds
Well,
or
they've overplayed. They certainly have overplayed. Now, they kind of still have the overall flavor of the pattern remains the same, but they have overplayed. In some instances, they've overplayed the troughs that they show bringing dry air into the eastern part of the United States, and they've underplayed the ones that have resulted in either cloudy, rainy days or the two tropical storms that we had coming up the eastern seaboard. So, uh, by the way, we forgot yesterday. Shame on both of us. Shame on both of us. We forgot yesterday to wish Lonnie Quinn a happy birthday.
oh well, yes, it was his birthday
Now,
yesterday.
I would just tell Lonnie that you can. This would be a perfect way of extending your birthday to a 2-day event. So that's kind of how I'm seeing it. Not that we forgot, but that we wanted to extend it to a 2-day event. Everybody was telling you happy birthday yesterday, but today Joe and I are telling you happy birthday, which makes it extra special.
And I'm sure Lonnie appreciates that.
Well, he
Uh,
and I are very close, so he probably will shoot me a message. He actually did. He messaged me. He sent me. He posted a response to something I had put up, and he was very nice. He said some very nice things, and I really appreciate it.
well, good
Everybody's
for
got
him.
not everybody gets my dark sense of humor, because because that's how I am.
Well,
But
he can't do Joe and Joe week during the week because he does he records a newscast at 7 o'clock that goes on the air at 9 o'clock on WLNY out of Long Island,
well,
channel
he could
55.
get them to just push it back to 8 o'clock. I mean,
Or
seriously.
we could move to 8 o'clock.
No, that's not possible.
Well, if he
No, we
won't
can
tell
move
us,
it to 8. If Lonnie wants to, Lonnie has an open invitation. Okay,
well, so
so
many people have had open invitations.
I know, but they all have apparently they're all booked. Who's working for some network here and some local station there or whatever it is they're doing.
We can't even get the old gang from Fios One to come on,
I,
even though I know
I put up invitations all the time, and I
right.
don't. In all seriousness, everybody's got lives to live, and we totally get that. Um, Although we can't possibly understand why you wouldn't want to come on, here, but that's all right.
Right.
Uh, but but a few people have asked me, why don't you get this guest? Can you get this person, that person, the other person? And it's actually, you would think it would be easy, but having both Joe and I have spent all these years in television, it's not. It really isn't. Trying to time something out, everybody's on a different schedule. So trying to get somebody to guest is kind of a hit and miss thing. So we try. Every once in a while, we will succeed. And as you said, Joe, Lonnie's got an open invite, so all he has to do is let me know what's good for him, and we'll put him on.
We could put him on Sunday mornings.
Oh, we could
Give
do
me
that.
coffee,
Well, I mean, he could have,
Joe.
he could have his coffee in the barn, with, with a stack of with a stack of pancakes and whatever it is they have. He show us how he takes the eggs away from the chickens out from the barn, and
Right.
maybe make a fresh omelet right in front of us if the
I don't
chickens
even know
don't
whether or
mind.
not I don't even know whether or not Lonnie. I'm presuming he has power, but as you were aware, they had a tornado in the vicinity of
Yes,
Western
we
Connecticut.
mentioned it on Sunday. It was a confirmed tornado in Southwest Connecticut near Westport. I want to
A
see.
lot of people other were making note of on the chat board yesterday was the earthquake in North Carolina.
Yes, in Western North Carolina, 5.1. Well, in North Carolina, they they uh, they had a tropical storm. Well, they had a hurricane, an earthquake, and of course the ongoing pandemic. And there was something else that happened all in one week.
Right.
Just the whole thing all in one week. I mean, it's
Unbelievable.
just got to be crazy. I want to see if you can see this. But I've been kind of glancing to my side because I don't think it's going to work. Let's see. No, it's not going to work. No, it won't. For some reason, I can't do it.
I appreciate that, Scott. Scott Driller
There is.
hitting super chats and also on a super chat note saying Joe Rayo 38 to 1,000. Please help him get there. Yeah, we're making it slowly up the ladder, Scott. And I think the primer that I put up today on the Perseid meteor shower. And by the way, folks, if you're going to be looking for shooting stars, I would strongly urge you to try to do it tonight, even though the peak night is tomorrow night. The more I'm looking at these maps, the more I'm thinking, Joe, that we're probably going to have a lot of mid and high level cloud interference tomorrow night. Whereas tonight, I think we'll actually have some partly cloudy to clear conditions. So you'd probably be better trying to see shooting stars tonight as opposed to tomorrow night because tomorrow night again the weather may not be quite so good for viewing the sky and viewing the stars.
Right there. What I'm watching, I can't. It's very, very tiny. Okay, I have a spider that has dropped a strand of silk down from the ceiling, and with my finger, she's responding to my finger by now walking up the strand and getting out. I wish I could have gotten it on the camera. Okay, she's back up on the ceiling because she sees she's going up the strand. Okay, good.
Hey, it's better than a stink bug.
Oh God, yes.
They're all over the place. But
Oh, they certainly are.
um,
Eh,
Have you ever seen and have you ever seen a wood spider? I think where I live here in Putnam County, we're the capital of spiders.
I
I
love
mean,
spiders.
I'm talking about spiders. I'm not talking about daddy long legs. I'm talking about
No,
scary looking spiders
scary
about
looking
6 feet.
spiders.
Yeah.
I have one that built. I don't know what kind it is. It's a fairly large one. Built a web on my the sliding glass doors that go out to the backyard, and I walked into it.
Oh,
I walked into it yesterday. She was not happy, and she had to build it all from scratch. So she hid in the frame of the door all day, and then last night she rebuilt the web in the same spot. So I was very cautious today going in and out because I didn't want to knock it out. But if you ever want to see a really fascinating spider, go on YouTube and Google Planet Earth, the Porsche spider, like the car,
the
the
Porsche spider?
Porsche spider.
Okay.
It's a jumping. It is a jumping spider,
Oh God.
and it is well. You have David Attenborough, and the writing and the music is just fascinating. This spider is really amazing, amazing. They apparently it's able to. Well, first of all, it can jump 50 times its length, so it can jump as much as 4 feet. It's a spider that feeds on other spiders, so um, it's able to map out with its eyesight. It's able to map out in all dimensions when it sees its prey, when it's about to attack. And the spider also is a genius. She can actually craft a plan to uh, to get the spider, because different spiders have different uh, ways. Some of them are on webs, some of them have layers, and it was just amazing watching this spider and how she gets her prey. And even more amazing is how the male attracts the female, because he knows he's going to be lunch if
Oh, are we talking
she
about
ain't
something like
happy.
praying mantises know about this?
Well,
You know,
praying
the male.
mantis, yeah. Well, that's a pretty well known thing. After sex and before I kill you, I could use help with some shelves. All right, so
Oh,
Scott Briller hitting super chat tonight. That's a big thank you to you, sir, and a big hello to your mom, uh, who's still trying to figure out whether she's going to do the knee surgery or not. I will just tell you, and you can tell her. My mom had both knees uh, done one at a time, but the first one I think was done about 4 years ago. The other one was done 2 years ago, and it's amazing how different it is, because when she had her second one done, she was out of it was in and out of the hospital the same day. So as soon as they get you out of the operating room, you go straight to rehab. So there's no long hospital stay, nothing like that.
that's
And
great.
she got, it took her about a month to get through it. Now she's 86 years old. She just had a birthday, so she's not running the 100-yard dash, but she's getting around. So if there's a if that's a recommendation to get it, I mean, that's just, I'm telling you what my mom's experience is, and she does watch this show, by the way, Scott's mom. My mother doesn't watch the show.
Your mother's still wondering why she can't see you on FiOS 1.
She never did get that figured. I tried to explain it to her, and she never did quite grasp the concept.
Right,
So, well,
right.
you know what? She's 86. She's God bless her. So I'm not going to fault her for that. So let's see. Joe Rayo, I have a question from Johnny Quest. Is it true that later this month Jupiter, Saturn, and the Moon form a triangle?
Yes, they will be together later. And you can't miss Jupiter and Saturn now. You step outside, let's say around 9 or 10 o'clock, and look toward the south and east, you'll see this one big, bright, silvery star. And off to the left of that is a not quite as bright star. It's almost as if Jupiter were the captain and Saturn, being a bit further away and not quite as bright, is the lieutenant. And they're fairly spread apart right now, Joe. But what's going to be interesting is that on December 21st, the first day of winter, by the way, the winter solstice. These two planets are going to come so close together. In fact, they're going to be only 6 arc minutes apart. That is 1/5 the diameter of the full moon. And I would suspect that if you are nearsighted, all you need to do is to take your glasses off, and you'll see both of them as one single entity in the sky. So right now they're spread apart. They're going to get closer as we go through the next few months together. And yeah, at the end of this month, the moon, which will be past not quite full, will be in the same area of the sky and will make for not really a dramatic, but an eye-catching sight in our evening sky. And then later this year, and how many of you have gotten this ridiculous, absolutely atrociously ridiculous hoax or email, or maybe somebody's posted it on your Facebook page about the planet Mars, about the fact that Mars on August 27th is going to come so close to the Earth that it's going to look like another full moon in the sky. This has been going on over and over every summer since 2003. It is fake. It is a hoax, fake news. It is not going to
Fake
happen.
astronomy.
But fake is bad astronomy.
Bad astronomy.
But I will tell you that in October, in early October, Mars will be rather close to the Earth, about 38 million miles, which is pretty close for Mars. And when you go outside on October evenings and look out toward the east, you will see this thing that looks like a gigantic amber or ginger ale colored type star shining with a steady light, kind of a yellowish orange tinge, and that will be the planet Mars. It will not be as large as the full moon, but it certainly is going to catch your attention because it's going to get so very, very bright. I'll tell you how bright it's going to be. Go outside any night this week and look for Jupiter in the sky, that bright, silvery white star-like object. Look at Jupiter now. Mars in October will be even brighter than that. And the difference between Jupiter and Mars, aside from the brightness, will be the fact that Jupiter's silvery white. Mars, again, will have that amber or yellowish orange tinge to it. So
all right,
something to look forward to.
What's a good time for the Perseids to be out?
Best time would be after 10 o'clock. That's when Perseus, the constellation Perseus, begins to climb the northeastern sky. And if you could stay out until the first light of dawn, by 4 or 5 a.m., Perseus is all the way up here. So if you're going to be looking for meteors, the best piece of equipment I would suggest is to get out one of those long lounge chairs, which you might use to get a suntan during the summertime at the beach or on your patio. That is a perfect thing to use for looking for shooting stars because you'll be lying back like this all night. If you stand outside all night and keep looking up like this for meteors, I guarantee you that tomorrow morning you're going to have
A sore
neck or shoulder. That's not what you want to get. So break out the lawn chair either tonight or tomorrow night. Or again, tomorrow night, I think the weather may not be as good as what we may have tonight. And check out that sky. We have a moon. We have a half moon that will kind of squelch the light of some of the fainter meteors. But the brighter meteors should still be visible.
And try to get away from street lights.
Try to get away from street lights and try to get away from places that have a lot of obstruction to visibility, like tall buildings and tall trees. And it's always nice, Joe, to shower with a friend. If you're looking for a meteor shower, you might want to do it with some friends and, while away some time.
But those meteors hurt when they hit you.
Well, they don't. Obviously, for anybody who's concerned about that, these things are the size of dust grains and pebbles with the consistency of cigar ash. They enter our atmosphere.
Oh, I could relate to that.
Yeah, I know. Who knows better about cigar ash than you? 70 miles above our heads. A second later, they're consumed at about 40 miles, so there's no chance of getting hit by one of these. There are, however, two dangers in watching the Perseid meteor shower. And those two dangers are, if you're out long enough, getting drenched with dew and falling asleep.
Okay. And you mentioned about scams earlier with Facebook and emails. You always know who spends not that much time on Facebook when they start resharing these scam cut and paste posts that have been going on for years, and they just seem to get resurrected during times of trouble when I guess people are looking at social media a lot. or let's say looking at it more than they usually are. So that, there's the one going around again for the umpteenth time that if you cut and paste it, you'll reset Facebook's algorithm so that you'll see all these posts that from people that you haven't seen posts from because you think they've blocked them, that you've blocked them.
Right.
It's amazing. It's a scam. All that stuff is a scam. And by the
Yeah.
way, I would recommend the policy that I have when it comes to blocking people on Facebook. I do it on their birthdays. So if you're a friend of mine on Facebook and you passed your birthday, you're safe, and you can still see me. You're safe. If your birthday approaches, well, you may be on the list. I don't know. I haven't. I got to refresh my list in a little while. Joe, you're still on there, so you just had a birthday, so I didn't block you on your birthday,
Oh,
so
thank
you're
you.
good for another year.
You didn't block Lonnie, did you?
Oh no, no, not at all. There are a few people that I would love to block, but their birthdays aren't, they aren't anytime soon. So should they have another one, then yeah, I'll block them.
Okay.
Anyhow, so let's do a little Brilliant Jeopardy. All right, you ready?
Yes.
Now we're going to use Price is Right rules for this one. Okay, for this first question. The Philippines are made up of how many islands?
We know the main island, which is where Manila is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even know what the name of the main island is, and I know that there are other smaller islands. Uh, I'll say 16.
There are 7,100.
Oh,
Okay, so
oh,
you're the equivalent of the person who bid, you know, $100,000 for two
on the
motorcycles,
motorcycle. Yeah.
right? And you bet the dollar. Oh, the spider kind of went across this way now. All right. The second question is, what is the only continent to sit in all four hemispheres?
The only continent to sit in all four hemispheres?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I know we have the Eastern Hemisphere, the Western Hemisphere, the Northern and the Southern Hemisphere. And there's only one continent that
One continent sits in all four. Well, parts of one continent, or in each
I
hemisphere.
guess, I guess with the Bering Strait, with the Aleutians, Alaska, that would maybe qualify as the Eastern Hemisphere.
But
North
not the
America,
southern hemisphere.
Northern Hemisphere. Yeah. Well,
And Alaska's not a continent.
what I'm saying is that it's part of North America, right?
Right.
So it's the only continent.
It's the only
And
continent to
say,
sit where it sits in all four.
I don't know.
Africa.
Africa?
Yeah. Half of it is,
Well, half is in the
part of
North
it's north of
Pacific,
the equator, part of it's south. And
right?
the zero line runs right through eastern Africa.
Right. That's right.
Zero,
Okay.
zero island, Colonel Bleep. Okay.
That's
And what
right.
is the major city that's resting on two continents?
On two continents.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Sault Ste. Marie.
Oh, Jesus. Istanbul.
What?
Istanbul.
Istanbul?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I'll have to look at my.
Well,
I'll
because
have to look at my.
Turkey is Asia and Greece is Europe, and it's
I'll
like
have,
right there, kind of in both.
I'll have to look at my Funkin' Wagnalls Atlas and check up on this.
Yeah.
We did not get to all of the Thriller Jeopardy questions yesterday, so I will give them to you now.
Okay.
Let's see. We went through the three sitcoms that ended their run as number one show. Question two: only 5 shows led the year-end ratings. Did we do this?
Yes.
Only 5 shows led the year-end
Yes.
ratings in the 50. All right. So, did we do this? I don't know if we did this.
Go ahead. We'll do it again. Let's see. I'll tell you if we did.
Question two is only 5 TV shows led the year-end ratings in the 1950s. Name the 5 shows.
5 shows that led the what? Say that again.
Led the year-end ratings in the 1950s.
Only 5 shows.
Right.
Okay. So we
And
know I Love Lucy was one of them.
right.
But the phrase of your question is they ended the year-end ratings at number 1.
Right.
All right. So, God. I don't remember what was number one in 1950 or 51. I Love Lucy is pretty much from 52 to 57, so that takes care of those.
I'll give you one hint. During the 1950s, he controlled 12% of the amount of money that was coming into this particular television network. He was, in other words, he was the Howard Stern of the 1950s.
Hmm. Bob Hope?
And nobody remembers him today, surprisingly. No,
Really?
it wasn't
Well, I
Bob.
mean, well, I know that Danny Thomas was
I'll,
part of Desilu, but that
no,
I mean, his show was produced at
I'll,
Desilu and went on
I'll do
afterward.
I'll do a very bad imitation, and maybe you'll get it. How are you? How are you? How are you?
Yeah, not Jimmy Durante.
At one point, he had like 5 shows on television, and one of them was simulcast on radio.
Uh,
And he and Julius LaRosa were not very good friends.
oh, oh, good God, Arthur Godfrey.
Arthur
Arthur
Godfrey,
Godfrey. Yes.
Arthur Godfrey's talent scouts. I think he actually discovered a few people like Pat Boone were on that show. So that was one of those. So you have I Love Lucy and Arthur Godfrey's talent scouts, but you have a strike one there.
All right. Well, give me another hint for the other three.
Um, this show was sponsored by a well-known gas company,
Texaco.
Texaco Star Theater.
Okay.
Um, and this show for a long time was considered to be the great granddaddy of all shows in terms of longevity. But now shows like Saturday Night Live have left it, and The Simpsons have left it in its dust. But it was on for something like 23 seasons, and was always considered to be the mains of. It was a mainstay on Monday nights
In the 50s,
in the 50s.
and
Well,
then
yeah,
continued into the 70s.
right. Well, I
I
don't
don't.
know if it continued. Did it continue to 70? I think it did. Yeah.
I mean, the Ed Sullivan Show was one that ran through all of that, but I don't know if it finished the year at number one. Um, yeah, I don't know. I
On the
don't know.
radio version, the star of the show would say, "I'm the first man they look for and the last they want to meet." It's a chancy job, and it also leaves you to be very watchful and a little lonely. Gunsmoke.
Oh, Gunsmoke. I was never a fan of Gunsmoke. I know it's on MeTV, but I never really cared for it.
I love Gunsmoke on old time radio. You know, it was actually there was a crossover. They had a radio version and and of course the TV version. But the radio version, the guy who played Gunsmoke could never be Matt Dillon. He had a wonderful radio voice, but he simply could not
It's
fit in.
5'2".
It was William Conrad.
Oh,
If you
well,
know,
he went on to do Rocky and Bullwinkle, so we're okay with Bill
right,
Conrad
and also
and Cannon. Yes,
Cannon and Jake and the Fat Man.
right.
But it just wouldn't have worked out to be Matt Dillon.
No, not at all. So what is there's one more?
So it was Lucy, Gunsmoke, and there's one more. That's correct. I'll give you another hint. It's a game show.
It's a game show.
Right.
Something like the $99,000 answer.
Correct. Yeah. Although it
Right.
was not the 99.
No, it wasn't called the 99,000. That was the parody of the movie quiz show.
In fact, I think the host of this show actually made some appearances on I Love Lucy.
Possibly. I forgot what was the amount of money that it was called.
If I give you that, then you
No,
got
I don't remember, Joe.
64.
The $64,000 question. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, that was they had the big scandal.
Right. Actually, it didn't start with $64,000 question. It started with a show called Dotto, spread to another show called 21, and then later on it spread to. Do you know that Patty Duke was on the 64? No, wait a minute. I don't know if she was on 21 or the $64,000 question. I think she was on the $64,000 question, and they told her to lie that she was a spelling champion, and they brought her up to Congress. I think to find out whether or not she was among those who cheated on the show, she was taught to lie by somebody. I forget who told her to lie and how taught her how to
Her
act like she was
handlers,
tell the truth or whatever.
right?
And then an avuncular senator said, "Now, Patty, is everything that you told us today the absolute truth?" And Patty Duke broke down and said, "No." And they put her back on the stand and found out everything. So
Oh, good Lord.
there is a third question. The question three was, what was the highest rated I Love Lucy? Well, this is so easy, Scott.
Birth of
What
little
was the
Ricky,
highest rated I Love Lucy episode?
the hospital episode.
The hospital episode. Yes.
Lucy
There
goes to the hospital.
Right.
Exactly. Hello, Dr.
Ricky,
Harris. We're leaving it for the hospital with Mrs. Ricardo
Ricky,
now.
this is it.
Goodbye.
This is it,
Right.
Ricky.
No, Ricky, this is it. This is it.
The time
Has
has
come.
come.
Speaking of the time has come, our time has come, and it's time for us to go.
Yes.
But I want to remind everybody that this show is available as a podcast and will be in about an hour. So if you are tuning in late, or if you prefer to hear the podcast version because you can't sit down and watch the video, you can find it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and in all sorts of podcast places on the internet. You can find us anywhere. So be sure to do that.
You know, Joe, I just saw on the chat board, my wife, she says, OMG, my husband sure knows how to drag things out, doesn't he?
She'd make a great agent.
We're going to have some pillow talk tonight.
Yeah. Oh God, I'd be where's that be a spider on the wall for that one? By the way, a few people asked me, no, I never kill spiders. Spiders take care of all the stray insects that I can't stand. So no, and I don't. If I find one in the house that needs to go out, I very carefully get a piece of paper, lift it, and then place it someplace outside so that it can go on its merry way. Spiders have a great function in cleaning up the insect mess that's out there. So anyhow, and it's lightning bug season too. Fireflies.
Right. Right.
Yeah, any day now they start flashing so to attract mates. And if they get stuck in spider webs, you see them. They're like lanterns because they actually they flash their bioluminescence even while they're dying or have already passed on to the next world as they're wrapped in silk. All right, so since Mrs. Rayo has decided that we need to go, we need to go. We have a hard break to hit at 8:00. So
Okay.
everybody have a great night. Thanks for being here, Scott. Thanks for hitting Super Chat as always, and we'll see you tomorrow on the Joe and Joe Weather Show.